All right, so midpoint is basically the point in the middle. So one thing we can do is get the coordinate plane, your x-axis, your y-axis, graph these points, and find out which point's in the middle. That's one way of doing it. Or we can do this numerically. What I'm going to do, I'm going to look for the x values on my points. I'm just looking at the x values. So the first thing I'm going to do is the x value of my midpoint. What I'm going to do, so I'm going to open my parentheses. What I'm going to do, I'm going to add the x value. So I'm going to go forward plus a -1. And whatever I get, I'm going to divide it by 2. So I'm going to do the average of two values. Because the average of two values will give me the number in the middle. So I'm just looking at the x value right now. So if I add the two values, 4 plus a -1, that's 3. 3 divided by 2 will give me 1.5. The x value only. So I was just worried about the x value. Now to get the y value, I'm going to look at the y values that were given originally. And I'm going to do the same thing. 3 plus 7. I'm going to add the two numbers, 3 plus 7. Whatever I get, I'm going to divide it by 2. Once again, the average of two numbers will give you the number right in the middle. Right? 3 plus 7 is 10, and divided by 2 gives me 5. Those are the coordinates of my midpoint. Looking at question number 2. Let me get the x value. I'm going to go -10 plus a -6. Once again, I'm just adding the x values. Whatever I get, I'm going to divide it by 2. -10 and a -6 gives me -16. Divided by 2, -8. That's the x value only. Now for the y value, I'm going to go -1 plus 9. Right, I'm going to add the two y values and then divide it by 2. -1 plus 9 is 8. Remember, when they have different signs, we subtract them, keep the sign of the large one. So -1 plus 9 is 8. 8 divided by 2 gives me 4. That's simple. Whenever you guys type it, make sure you guys do use parentheses for your coordinates. And after the comma, make sure you put a space. So as a matter of fact, for emphasizing, I'm going to make sure that after the comma, we have a space whenever you guys type in your answers. Any questions so far? I can give it to you guys numerically, but I can also give it to you guys graphically. So it's a graph. Here I'm asking the same thing. Find the midpoint of each line segment. I'm not going to expect you guys to copy these notes, copy this graph. That's not going to be too simple. But what we're going to do, we're going to get the endpoints of each line segment. So if I'm looking at this point, right, painted red, we know how to find the coordinates of a point. The coordinates of this point are 2, 1. The x value is 2, the y value is 1, right? We know how to find the coordinates of that point. If I look at the other point, the coordinates are -4, -5. Right? We know how to find the x and the y value of a point. Now that we have the coordinates of each endpoint, I'm going to do like we just did questions 1 and 2. Thank you. So I'm going to do it just the way I did questions 1 and 2. For the x value, I'm going to add the x values. So I'm going to do +2 plus a -4 divided by 2. Right, I'm going to add the x values and divide it by 2. 2 plus a -4 is -2 divided by 2 gives me -1. Now for the y value, I'm going to add the numbers 1 plus a -5 divided by 2. What do you guys get for the y value? -4 divided by 2, -2. And that's pretty much it. Those are the coordinates of the midpoint. So matter of fact, to show you guys, Let me plot the point -1, -2. And if I was to measure it, yeah, pretty much the same thing. It's the point in the middle. So let me do question number 4. The coordinates of my points are -1, 2. The coordinates of the other point is -2, -1. So to find the x value, I'm going to add the x value. So -1 plus a -2 divided by 2, which gives me -1.5. Right? -1, -2 is -3. -3 divided by 2 is -1.5. Now for the y values, I'm going to add 2 plus a -1 divided by 2, which gives me 0.5. So you guys will find the midpoint. I can give you the coordinates numerically, kind of like how we did questions 1 and 2. I can give it to you numerically. I can give it to you graphically, like we did questions number 3 and 4. Any questions so far? Now, to be a little more challenging, we're going to move into something where I'll give you the coordinates of one endpoint. I'll give you the coordinates of the midpoint. Now I'm asking, find the other endpoint. What I mean with that is, if we have a segment, we have the two endpoints, and we have the midpoint right in the middle. I'll give you the coordinates of one endpoint and one midpoint. I want to know the other. So let me get the two endpoints to begin with. One endpoint is 10, -6. Those are the coordinates of one endpoint. The other one, let me call it x and y because I don't know what they are. Right, the two endpoints. Because I know in the previous 4 examples was, as long as we have the two endpoints, for the x value, we add the two x values, we divide it by 2, and gives us the midpoint. We know that the midpoint is 8, 2. That's information that we know. One endpoint is 10, -6. We don't know the other one. We know the midpoint. So what I'm going to do to solve for x, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go 10 plus x. I'm adding the x values of my endpoints divided by 2, and that should equal to 8. That makes sense? I'm adding the x values of the endpoints, 10 plus x divided by 2, and that should give me the x value of the midpoint. Okay. I don't know about you, but most people don't like fractions. Right? We cannot simplify the fraction 10 plus x. We don't know what 10 plus x is. We cannot simplify it. So multiply both sides by 2. Multiply both sides by 2 to get rid of fractions, because that 2 will get rid of the fraction. So then we have that 10 plus x is equal to 16. What's x? If 10 plus x equals 16, 6. Okay. So we solve the x of the x value of the endpoint that we're looking for. Now we got to find the y value. And what I'm going to do for the y value, I'm going to go -6 plus y divided by 2 is equal to 2. I'm adding the two y values of the endpoints divided by 2. It should give me the y value of my midpoint. Once again, if you don't like fractions, get rid of them. I'm going to multiply both sides by 2 because that way I get rid of fractions. So then I have -6 plus y is equal to 4. Right? The last step is what you guys learned in Algebra 1, how to do the opposite operation of -6. So if -6 plus y equals 4,